World Wide Web, and here we are again on Thursday. So this is the fourth one of these we've done this week. We did one on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, and we've got a succession of these also planned for next week. So anybody out there, thank you for joining us. And yeah, we've got another OMD fan who's going to do an introduction to where he is. Again, we're working on time zones. So everybody, a big warm welcome to Patrick. Patrick, do you want to do an introduction and let everybody know where you are, who you are, a little bit about yourself?
Okay, well, people on the internet know me better as P.F. Wilson. That's the name I write under stuff like that. I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio. Don't be fooled by the Union Jack behind me or the red frame white light over there on the basement from a 50th birthday party a couple years ago had by my family. I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio, and joining you today, and happy to have me, Neil.
No, that's great. I was just looking at your phone box. Is it a cardboard cutout phone box?
Yeah. They found it at a party store.
All right, okay. Maybe we should. We need to find a store in this country, and the friends of 632-3003 can customize them and sell them as merchandise. So, so it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
I think I should get on that.
Yeah. Honestly, there's a market out there. So 3 o'clock in the afternoon where you are. How's your day been so far?
Busy. I work from home. So I have two jobs. One for a t-shirt company, and one for a chain of restaurants here in the local region.
Excellent. Just a quick shout out to Robert Reed. Hello, Robert. You always join us, so thanks for being a faithful commentator and a faithful OMD fan. So that's Robert over on YouTube. So so it was quite interesting because obviously I've known you as PF sort of Wilson, and I never knew your name until tonight. So yeah, isn't that amazing? So over where you are, how long have you been an OMD fan for?
Since 1984-ish, like a lot of fans in America, I had the problem that OMD were on a label that didn't support them in this country. Andy has told the story that Virgin didn't have operations here in the United States in the 80s. So they had all the bands had to sign separate contracts with other labels in this country. And OMD wound up on Epic, who knew what to do with Culture Club and their own Adamant, but had no clue what to do with OMD. So poor was their support of OMD, I never saw an OMD video until 1985, even on MTV. Even though MTV was desperate for content, never saw an OMD video. Didn't know who they were until 1984 when I heard Junk Culture in college.
So obviously with the airplay and publicity where you are being so limited, and you mentioned you heard them play Junk Culture in college. Was that on a radio station, or how did that come about?
That was at the station I worked at. Junk Culture was in the rotation. I saw the name sounded cool. I looked at some of the titles. Tesla Girls, Apollo sounds cool. I'll play these. And so I played them, and I liked them. I thought maybe it was the only album they had. I didn't really do a deep dive into the following year when Crush came out, and my best friend bought it, and he was playing in the car. I'm like, this is fantastic. So I bought Crush, and then I went backwards through the catalog, and then stayed forward through the catalog. So here we are today.
Yeah, sort of interesting times, because even we were talking to some English fans a couple of nights ago, and even in this country, back in those early days, you had no idea when an album was going to come out or when a single was going to come out. Yeah. Obviously, you had the music press over here. You had weekly music papers and monthly papers. Isn't it amazing where technology has taken us to now, where everybody's got this thirst for information and things. So with your discovery of OMD, were you living in the area where you are now, or were you in a different area?
No, I was in college at Bowling Green, and then summers I spent at my father's house in Pittsburgh. That's where my mate was that bought Crush. And yeah, they quickly became my favorite band. My favorite band at the time was probably Thompson Twins, who toured with OMD. OMD was the opening act. Thompson Twins in a lot of trouble at that point. Joe Leeway not happy with the band. It was the Here's the Future Days tour. OMD blew him off the stage. And that was for the Crush tour. And from there, it just kind of gradually snowballed, and they became my favorite band, along with the Beach Boys, which we can get into.
Yeah, well, let's remember to bring that up, because obviously we've got the fairly recent connection with that. So let's just rewind back to those sort of early mid-80s. So you had at least one friend that was a fan of OMD. Did you ever know of any other fans out there?
Oh yeah. The thing is, when Junk Culture came out here, it was on A&M Records. And A&M supported all of their bands, whether they were good or not. There was a band called, you kids might recall, Thrashing Doves from London. They were fine. But A&M supported them like you wouldn't believe when I was in college. First CD they released, I think, on A&M Records was Thrashing Doves. Let them record in a Diplo studio. So the upshot is they really supported OMD. And OMD started finally to get some traction in this country. So my friends knew. We all listened to what we, I guess, new wave and alternative music then. And of course, working at the college radio station, I knew a lot of people who knew who OMD was. Even before If You Leave.
And so, going back to what we were talking about a few moments ago when you discovered sort of Junk Culture, did you say you were working at a radio station then?
Yeah, college radio station.
Okay.
One of my first shifts. We had a bin of albums, and I think there was heavy, medium, and light rotation. And you had to play a certain number of records from each bin per hour, and then whatever else you wanted. And I think they were in the medium rotation bin. And this was the fall of 1984. The album, I think, came out in the summer. So it was already out of heavy rotation, but it was still available to play. So I played Tesla Girls and Locomotion and Apollo. And yeah.
So when sort of OMD, as I say, sort of did make it across the pond over to your waters, did you manage to go and see them in those sort of earlier days?
Yeah, like I said, I saw them open for Thompson Twins on the Future Days tour. And then I saw them headline on the Pacific Age. And then that was the only time I saw them together. The first incarnation of the group, or the classic lineup, I guess we should say. And then I drove to New York City with my now wife to see Andy on the Sugar Tax tour. And then I've seen him a couple times since they've gotten back together.
Okay, just a quick comment from Mark Pearson on Facebook. He's saying he's getting some feedback. Thanks, Mark, for that. What I'll do, Mark, is I'm going to mute my mic when I'm not talking in case it's my microphone interfering. Let us know, Mark, whether that improves things or not, whether we need to go on to mute when we're not talking. Brilliant. So, obviously, the big success where OMD really sort of hit it off was obviously with sort of Pretty in Pink and If You Leave. So that was when the major success happened. What was the atmosphere like, and the radio play and publicity then? Because that must have been really quite something.
It was. People really liked that soundtrack a lot in this country. And to this day, though, it's really the only song they're known for in America. People that liked that, I guess, sort of more new wave alternative music are kind of familiar with So in Love and maybe Enola Gay. In fact, when they were here in 2019, not last year, but 2019, I remember him commenting to the audience. He's like, I bet you didn't know you knew all these songs, did you? And it's true, but people for sure only know If You Leave in this country. So whenever I explain my favorite band is Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark, people are like, who are they? And If You Leave, oh, yeah, I love that song. My wife's cousin, it's her favorite 80s song. And I'm like, do a deeper dive, love. Pick up the best of OMD. Nice user-friendly experience. You'll love it.
Okay, so just over to Mark again. Right, Mark, all being well, as I say, I'll try and sort of mute when I'm not talking. So I hope that's is definitely there. So there's Mark saying that's better. So thanks, Mark. Yeah, so obviously over here in the UK and Europe, OMD are really still known only for Enola Gay. So you've got If You Leave Where You Are, and we've got Enola Gay here. And funny enough, Andy was commenting in a fairly recent interview, because he's got the intellectual rights to songs. His main, or one of the main money spinners for the band, where they've got a good income coming in, is If You Leave in America, Rest of the World, and Enola Gay. So yeah, that's good.
That surprises me because they had so many top 20 hits in the UK and all over Europe. Here they had 5, I think, total top 40 hits, and only one top 10, two top 20, and then a couple that straggled into the top 40. So that kind of surprises me. I think they'd be a little more widely known in the UK and Europe.
So again, they're one of those bands that when they come on and play the hits, so as soon as they go, either they play Locomotion or Tesla Girls or Talking Loud and Clear or Messages or Electricity, on and on with Joan of Arc, Maid of Orleans, everybody, oh, now we remember. Now, but the name Orchestral Manoeuvres in the Dark isn't necessarily associated to those hits, but it's associated to Enola Gay. So obviously, as we went through the 80s and towards the end Pacific Age, then the band split up. Were you getting news that the band had broken up in America at that stage? Because obviously the internet was really new. So Pat's World of OMD was probably the first OMD sort of site, and then I think myself actually set up the second one over here. So how did you get any news that the band was splitting up?
I was working at a professional radio station by then, and one of my listeners who came to intern for me sort of was a huge OMD fan as well. That's how she became a fan of my show. And she subscribed to the newsletter. She was in the fan club, and I think I ended up joining as well. But she got the newsletter and brought it in one day and said, "Oh my God, look." And that's how we knew. So she was right up to date on everything. She lent me her copy of Messages, that biography that I believe Paul's brother worked on, the one from the late 80s. So I read that, and yeah, so we were pretty up to date. And I was a big Melody Maker fan. I could go down to my local record shop, and they imported it. We would get it 2 weeks late, obviously, but I was able to stay up to date on all of the things going on in Britain, and then there were publications that came to the radio station and kept me, up to date on things happening in America. So even without the internet, I was still able to stay really well informed about what was going on in music.
So that's really intriguing. You mentioning like Melody Maker being a great import. So I've never really considered that. So yeah, it was John and Mike Humphreys you're referring to, who were running the OMD information service, and over on the OMD fan Facebook group, on the announcements, I pinned an interview I did with John and Mike a couple of years back.
I saw
that. Yeah, I'm still in touch with them. They are such a lovely couple. And in those dark days, it was weeks, if not a couple of months, before news was dribbling out, and obviously it was interesting, for myself to obviously was a little bit involved then with the information service, and then to see Andy getting his confidence to make the comeback with Liberator. So how did you respond to Liberator when it came out? Was it a thumbs up or a thumbs down?
I like Liberator. I liked the lead-off single, Stand Above Me. My beef with Liberator is that I think Every Day was a weird choice for a single. And it's an okay song. It would have made a nice B-side. I know, Paul co-wrote it, but there were so many other great songs on it. There should have been singles like Dollar Girl. I know people like Best Years of Our Lives. That would have been a great one. The cover of Sunday Morning is great. There's nothing wrong with was it the one based on Love's Theme? I can't remember the exact title right now. I'm blanking, but that was a nice single. But Every Day is another single. I think that's really what really killed that album. But there's a lot of great songs on there. There's just, the only one I don't like, and it's my least favorite OMD song. Do not like that song. But other than that, I love Liberator. Oop, I can't hear you.
Okay, can
Oh,
just
there you
repeat the song. Just repeat the song you didn't like. We just had Angus Day.
Yeah. Ooh, not a fan.
It was,
but love the whole album otherwise.
yeah, it was OMD putting a toe into the rave scene back in the back in the day.
Yep.
But yeah, it's really bizarre because so many people slag off Liberator and don't like it, and they forget it was Andy's sort of first album. And I adore Christine. I think Christine is such a beautiful song. And it's a real story when you know what the what the song words are. So we had this sort of OMD sort of breakup. I mean, was it '89, and then the OMD come back again a couple of years later. Then we had the 3 albums, so Liberator, Sugar Tax, and Universal. And then all of a sudden, Andy McCluskey goes, "No, I'm not doing it anymore." And Atomic Kitten was born. How did you feel when OMD split up or finished for the second time?
I was a little bummed, but I understood the reasoning. I interviewed Andy when the singles compilation came out, and he told me this great story. He said he was in a record shop, and he picked up an Erasure album. He's friends with those guys, and he picked up the album, and he goes, "Wow, do I really need another Erasure album?" And then he thought, "Wait a second, what if people are picking up my album and saying, 'Do I need another OMD album?'" And at that point, he was like, "That's it. We've got to close down the tent." And as he's explained in multiple interviews, it was not a good time to be in an electronic band. It was either Britpop or rock. Rock was back, so I understood the reasoning. But I always hoped that they would, not only that OMD would, make another album, but that he and Paul would bury the hatchet. Which I guess he told me in an interview before that they did quickly after the initial breakup. They were mates again. They just didn't work together for 15 or odd years or something like that.
Yeah, it was. It was a strange time in Britain, as I say, because the Britpop thing was here, and the likes of OMD were yesterday's music, and the worst thing for OMD was, again, things were slightly changing with technology, and we used to have a shop over here called Woolworths, which I suppose it's like your Walmart, and they'd become the biggest stockist to sell singles, and they would not stock any OMD singles, and it was quite sad. So OMD sort of finished, and we were in this dark period with nothing going on. But obviously, the excitement for those that knew was the girls and Atomic Kitten were born. Did you listen to any Atomic Kitten or have any interest on them?
Yeah, just the songs Andy wrote or co-wrote with the ones I was interested in, and of course, he and I don't know if it was him and Stuart Kershaw or him and somebody else may or may not have written the new bridge they put in "The Tide Is High." Some places I've seen them credited for it, other places they're not credited for it. So I don't know if they wrote the bridge for that part of the song. But I liked all the songs Andy wrote. I liked "Walking on Water." I think is like my favorite Atomic Kitten tune written by Andy. And it's fine for what it is. I mean, it's I have a wide palette for pop music, so that's my go-to Britpop girl group is Atomic Kitten. And again, just the tracks Andy wrote.
So obviously, over the years, he's done a few covers. I take it you've heard the Andy McCluskey cover of "Whole Again."
Yeah, I have. I was explaining this on the page a couple of weeks ago. I have a confession to make. On the page on the web page years ago, the official OMD web page, they posted that, and they said, "Please don't copy this. Please don't rip it." Well, you can't buy it in America. I went on iTunes last week. I was going to buy it. I was going to give Andy my $1.29, whatever it was. You can't even buy it. So I took it off the website years ago, and I still have it in my iTunes. That's the only way I can get it. So sorry, Andy. I'll send you $1.
Yeah, it's weird because it's actually it's on a compilation album, I believe, isn't it? So it was
Liverpool number one hits.
Yeah, so it was it was a bit of a strange one, but it was. I think when you hear that, and then you relate to Atomic Kitten, you can hear the OMD in that song, isn't it? So yeah, absolutely crazy. So obviously we went through the 80s and into the 90s and into the millennium where we are now. and they've reincarnated themselves, a handful of times. Do you have a standout OMD single at all? Whether that's a single that's been released or a single as in a B-side or on an album, do you have a number one single song that you like?
Overall, or just from the last few years?
Overall.
Well, this is the boring answer, which you guys are going to hate over there. Enola Gay. Although Telegraph is really a strong second. I do love Telegraph.
This is amazing because this came up exactly last night with the interview we did. Just a quick shout out to Corella. I hope I've said your name right. So she's saying hello to you, Patrick.
Hello.
Over on YouTube. Let me just pull that one up. So yeah, so hello and thanks for joining us, and also to D. Merrills. There you are. Can you read that comment?
Yep, I like that.
Yeah, okay.
Name Merrills.
Yeah, and we've got another comment from him as well. Yeah, Sugar Tax. One album, Sugar Tax. That was really
Sugar
good.
Tax is great.
Yeah, so Telegraph. So Telegraph was sort of one of those in the early days, fantastic to see live, and then obviously his Andy's voice, it never changed, but he was concerned about not being able to reach those high pitches. And then in recent years, that sort of has come back to being performed live. So I've just got another. Who's this one off? Oh, Jackie, sorry, over on Facebook. Thank you, Jackie. We've been trying to do these interviews on and off for some time, and we're just hitting it for 2 weeks whilst I've got some time in the job I'm doing. So we're going to be continuing in next week with them. So thanks for the comment. So Telegraph. Let's hope that we get to hear that on the next round of tours that are coming up. Fingers crossed.
For sure.
So in sort of recent, let's take this into 3 sections, shall we? So in the recent period, so that's post Andy on his own. That's the new period, the new OMD, if you like. History of Modern and Punishment of Luxury, etc. What are your thoughts on the new albums that they've been kicking out?
Well, that's one of the reasons that they're still my favorite or / second favorite group is they still make good albums. Those last 3 albums are all great, and I think they stand up with the rest of the catalog. There's very, very few groups I think that consistently make good albums. Especially from that era. Like I love the Pet Shop Boys, but Love, Etc. was probably their last really good song. Human League, Heaven 17, all this. Still love all those groups. Depeche Mode, after a while they're left. So did I.
Yeah, so Robert sort of making a comment that last night we were talking about Ghost Star. I mean, that's like a modern version of Stanlow. Ghost Star is absolutely amazing. And The View from Here, Robert, you're right. Yeah, class song. So then into those early periods, so that's like from the first album, Organisation, Architecture, Morality, Dazzle Ships. Do you have a standout album from those sort of early days, the initial days?
Yeah, boring answer. I think Architecture Morality is the best of those. Although Dazzle Ships, I think, and I've always told people this, if you take off the noise experiments and maybe throw on one of the B-sides, like 66 and Fading or something like that, you have a whole album. And there's no controversy. You have 8 songs. A lot of albums back then were 8 songs. So I do like Dazzle, and of course Telegraph's on there. So Love International and Silent Running and all those. So
yeah, so I've got something called Rise of the Ziggurat. I said that right. It says Punishment of Luxury is incredible. Yeah, I agree with that. I think Andy is working on a new album, and he's saying that he's got a very high bar to compete with after Punishment of Luxury. So absolutely superb. So Patrick, have you ever been over to England at all?
Flew over it on the way to France to visit my mom's family. We begged her to stop in England, And she said we just can't afford it. It's 1978. We didn't have a lot of money. She thought it'd be one of the last times she'd see her mom, but her mom lived another 10 years, so she had a couple of more opportunities to see her. But she'd saved up all this money to go there, and she almost, because she's a big Anglophile as well, but we did not. Just flew over it on the way to Paris. We're hoping to go perhaps for my daughter's senior trip when she graduates high school in a year or two. We're hope to go to England because my daughter, a big Anglophile, big Clash fan she is.
Really, see, that's interesting how a younger generation are rediscovering our generation sorts of music. So, yeah, D Merle's, genetic engineering.
Yes,
I think genetic engineering, I'm afraid, got everybody completely confused to what the fucking hell has happened here. We've got this band singing sort of, I don't know, Enola Gay, Made of Orleans, and all of a sudden, genetic engineering comes out, bonkers. So, do you purchase any of the English things that have happened over here? So obviously, I'm thinking of things like the OMD performing with the Philharmonic Orchestra. Have you purchased any of those sort of albums or CDs?
That I haven't, no. And I think I only bought a couple individual tracks off of Live in Berlin. I don't know why, but I have all of the albums digitally. I think I have all of the B-sides. And I know someone was on the Facebook page a while back saying, "Oh, I can't wait for the next round of unreleased stuff." I'm like, on the box set, there's stuff called Untitled 3. I think we're very much near the end. Although we still don't have Maria Gallant. And by the way, Paul, I still want my Crush remaster. With B-sides.
Well, who knows what could come out? I mean, those unreleased tracks, that little that collection, Dunbar and Liberator, and some absolutely stonking bits of music in there. Really nice bits of music.
Mm-hmm.
I was just, as I say, I was just interested because obviously we were really privileged with OMD playing with this Philharmonic backdrop to their songs, and I think we forget that people like you over there just can't see what happened or have that opportunity. So so I normally keep these quite short. We're coming up to 30 minutes, so we're absolutely rocking all over. Oops, sorry about that, a message coming in, and I try and ask some silly questions away from OMD a little bit. I can see a big British flag behind you, and we've seen the phone box you've got. So, do you or have you ever imported or purchased in the area where you are any British delicacies like chocolate or ketchup? I mean, do you have any English stores where you are?
No, but oddly, we have a huge grocery store here called Jungle Jim's, and he has 2 locations here in Cincinnati, and one is just down the road from us, and it carries all sorts of international food, including British food. And so we buy a lot of the British candy. My daughter is keen on, and so is my other daughter, but she now lives in Cleveland and works at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, by the way. So if you're ever there in Cleveland visiting, folks, say hi to my daughter Hannah. But yeah, so we do have a lot of English delicacies, and there's Tim Tams from Australia. We buy those, and I'm trying to think what the Cadbury chocolate, they like that. I'm trying to think what their big favorite is right now. I can't remember, but they've been out of it for the past couple of weeks, whatever they've been hooked on lately. But he's been having trouble getting stuff in. But yeah, plenty of opportunity to buy British stuff at Jungle Jim's.
I just found it remarkable, as I say, you mentioned Cadbury's. So we've had sort of trouble in England where formulas have been mixed up, and Cadbury's isn't produced by the original Cadbury's, and over to your side of the water. So Patrick, just as I say, as we just start to sort of wind down and conclude this fantastic interview with yourself, is there any other things that you'd like to sort of mention or to bring up, or any
one quick story. I mentioned that when people ask what my favorite band is, the answer is the Beach Boys are probably number one, only because they have been around longer and they have more albums than OMD. So, but it's really a tie for first. And so I remember being on the Facebook page years and years ago, and I saw a thumbnail of Hawaiian shirts. I'm like, oh, the boys must have played like maybe Ibiza. Maybe there was some kind of rewind festival there. So I click on it. No, it's the Beach Boys on stage with OMD. They're singing Good Vibrations. It's like, what in the world's colliding? It was insane. So I thought that was really cool. And then on my podcast, PF's Tape Recorder, which you can find anywhere you get your podcast, it should be available. I have some listeners over in the UK. I just did a series called PF's Third Favorite Band. So the Beach Boys and Orchestral Movers in the Dark, 1 and 2. I play a song by each of them, and then we explore who my third favorite band is. And I can tell you now, since we've wrapped it up, Killers was number 3. But I had a lot of fun going through the Beach Boys and OMD history. And as I told Paul Humphreys in an interview I did with him, they've also both been on the show individually, Paul and Andy. So just Google PF's Tape Recorder and then OMD or either of their names, and you should come up with it. But I was telling Paul that really between OMD and the Beach Boys, that's my entire aesthetic. Sunshine, California, beaches, pretty girls, versus British people, intellectualism, history. Those two bands together, that's pretty much me.
How amazing is that? And as I say, who'd have ever thought that OMD, would be supporting the Beach Boys?
Crazy.
Have you a fan of the B-52s at all?
A little bit. I'm not mad at the Bees. I like the hits. If you look on a map, you'll see that Dayton, Ohio is about an hour from us. And when OMD were here in 2019, they headlined in Cincinnati. And I promised my wife that I'm not going to drive up to Dayton to see them in a week, to middle for B-52s. And of course, right after I saw them, I'm like, I'm going up to Dayton to see the boys middle for B-52s. And my daughter, who isn't, none of the rest of the family is keen on OMD, unfortunately. But my youngest came with me and took pictures. And she ended up having a good time. And she's like, wow, they were really the best ones on the bill. And love Berlin, love B-52s. But, it's a whole different thing.
Quick comment from D Mills over on YouTube saying OMD deserve to reach on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
I have to recuse myself though, because like I said, my daughter works there. And every time I'm up there, there's a place on the second floor you can nominate bands. And I always nominate OMD and take a picture. In fact, I'm sure if you look on the OMD fan Facebook page, you'll see where I've posted that picture. I nominate OMD to be in the Rock. And before it was a joke, but now I'm really serious. They really should be, if you think about it, because influence, people know who they are. They've had tons and tons of hits, and again, lots and lots of people have been influenced by them. Death Cab for Cutie, and just all kinds of people here in this country. So I think you really could make a case.
Yeah, so something that happened a few years ago with the Olympics. So on the opening ceremony, OMD, and how much higher, saying how much British can you get to have had that privilege. So Patrick, we're going to wind down, and I just want to sort of give you a huge big thank you for coming and joining us, and it's great to actually know your name now. So it's Patrick Francois, and I absolutely love the name. I've said that right, haven't I?
Yes.
So I absolutely love that name. That is so French and everything, and fantastic to put a face to the name. And thank you ever so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Neil. This was great. I really enjoyed this.
Okay, guys, so we're just going to just one last comment before we go. Mr. Mills, if they were American, maybe not. Who knows?
Well, here's real quick on the Hall of Fame. Just don't get wrapped up in the Hall of Fame bit. Because I don't. If you ever in Cleveland, Ohio, and you visit, it's really the museum part is what's really cool. They've got all kinds of cool stuff in there. And the Hall of Fame thing, I mean, the Hall of Fame, who cares about a Hall of Fame? It's really the fact that they've archived all this stuff from the history of rock and roll that's really cool about it. So focus on that.
Sounds good to me. People, if you're over there, make sure you go and visit. You've got a high, strong recommendation. Patrick, thank you ever so much. Have a fantastic afternoon where you are. I hope the sun shines, and great to see you, and we'll catch you again on another one. So thanks everybody for joining us.